Good morning. Happy Sunday. I'm in town today, just doing a little bit of running around, going for lunch, all that joyous stuff. If you're joining me live, you know the deal. Let me know in the comments that you're here. If you're watching the replay, #replay. So this morning I popped over to the farmer's market. So every Sunday, my little home, my town, has a farmer's market where local farmers, local artisans, crafters, bakers get together and they make and they sell, right? Just like any farmer's market. And throughout the summer, it's every Sunday, and it's one of my favorite things to do. I don't always go every Sunday, but I really do enjoy it, right? There's just a way of you interact with strangers, and that's really, I'm an extrovert, but like interacting with strangers is my particular kind of fuel. And so today I ran into an old friend's parents and, chatted with them a little bit, walked around, got my bannock for breakfast. And then as I left, I noticed something. I noticed something about my energy. Okay. And I want to share this with you guys because I've noticed at the last couple farmers markets how this energy moves. Okay. Now, the first thing that I want to explain is captivation itself, what captivation is. I really don't like the energetic of the word because it dismisses what it is based on the wording that's used, right? So when something is captivating, it feels like you are captured, right? It's like that you are captive against your will, that there is something that you do not get to participate in because you don't have a choice, right? And enchantment works the same way, right? Whenever you're reading a book about witches or spell work, there's like, you're going to enchant them, or I was enchanted. There's this idea that your sovereignty is stripped. That interacting with something that's enchanting or captivating, that you are no longer sovereign. And this is what I personally believe has contributed to the misogyny of witches, right? Like the hatred of witches. Oh, there's a way that they're going to strip your sovereignty by that being themselves. So, I was reading a book recently where it was like this man, he would walk into a room and he was enchanting. The whole world stopped in his presence. And there was a way he hated it. He hated that aspect about himself because he knew that people were just constantly falling in love with him and that he couldn't feel if it was true for himself. And I know the spot personally. That for years, whenever someone would like me, I would question the authenticity of that like because of a number of different things. They were enchanted. I felt like I was stripping them of something by being myself because they felt out of control around me. They felt like they didn't have a choice but to dote on me, to fall for me. And I didn't like that. I didn't feel accepting of myself in the presence of that. As if I did something to strip someone's sovereignty, right? And as an example, last year, I had a friend of mine who told me he liked me, and I was so victimized by it. I was like, for fuck's sakes. Because then I could see all of the ways that I was his distraction and where I was the problem. And, a teacher and a mentor at the time, she had told me, she was like, he's sovereign. He gets to choose. And one of the ways that it's really hard for us to accept that other people are sovereign is in the place of enchantment, is in the place of being captivated. Because the way that we ourselves dismiss that we have a choice to be there, to be in the presence of that energy, is how we abandon our sovereignty, right? So when people feel captivated by me, they often feel captive. They're like, I had an ex who referred to me as, you got tricked. And I was like, I have not tricked you. I was very obvious about all the things I wanted. And it was this way that he would abandon his sovereignty and say that he didn't choose something, rather than being like, I chose to be captivated. I chose to be enchanted by the energy that you bring forward. And really, that's all we're ever doing, is that we are opting in to an energy field that we can tell that we like, and that we just lean into it. We go, I want that, right? So if you ever go to a museum, this happens all the time. You could walk through a museum and be captivated by nothing. But the moment you lean into your sovereign participation, you could be captivated by all of it. You could be enchanted by all of it. You start to see the beauty, the magic, the heart, the love, the sex, the energy of something becomes very potent when you opt into it. So if you're the person who holds a frequency of enchantment or captivation, it can be really easy for you to really abandon that. One second. There is someone. There we go. Okay. So if you hold the energy of enchantment, it can be really hard to abandon that, because what you'll see is everybody abandoning their sovereignty in your presence. Right? They will act as though you did something bad. So what I see for myself is, when I was 16, 17, 18, I was a very captivating person. In fact, throughout most of my life, I've been very captivating. But then I started to learn that other people would abandon themselves in my presence, and that was bad, right? Because it is, abandoning yourself is bad, but I took it as that was my fault, that there was something wrong with me because other people would abandon themselves around me. So what did I do? I stopped being enchanting. I recoiled. I took everything that was me and I brought it inward. So I was living shoulders out and open to all of a sudden hunched forward and closed. This is when I started having like some major chest issues too, because I was physically contracting my energetic field too. This is when my whole experience of life started to shift. I was no longer getting opportunities that I wanted. I was no longer having the connections and friendships I desired. My love life fell apart. I was no longer having sex. Like all of this stuff started to like fall away because I believed what other people and the stories they had about enchantment and captivation. To be captivated is to simply say, I had the sovereign choice to opt into the energy that was present. To be enchanted is, I opted in, I took the sovereign participation in the energy that was present. That's it. But when you say, I was captivated, I was enchanted, as though there's someone who put this mystical spell that you couldn't control or you couldn't opt into, you're actually abandoning your sovereignty there. Right? And the truth is you're never bound to an energy. You have the choice of whether or not you'll opt into it. The beauty is that when you do opt into the energy present, there is something beautiful and magical that gets to evolve. But what typically happens is people will opt into the energy, unconsciously aware that they are opting in. They will continue to let the magic unfold, and then something will happen, and they'll say, I don't want this anymore. Maybe it's too much magic, maybe it's too much love, enchantment, whatever. And they'll say, I don't want it. And rather than saying, I'm choosing to remove myself from participating in this energy, I'm going to blame you for holding the energy. Right? Women do this to men all the time. Men do this to women all the time. It's an unwillingness to maintain your sovereign choice in life and be victimized to what's outside of you. You always have a choice, right? You always have a choice of whether or not you're going to opt into the energy that's present. The reason why I bring this up is the farmer's market has been a really great playground for me to really see this unfold in myself, in the way that I hold my own enchantment. And so a couple weeks ago, I think this was late July, maybe, I went to the farmer's market and I was just feeling myself, really. I went to go buy bannock, which I do every Sunday. I try to anyway. And there was this way that I was walking around where my heart was open, my chest was open, my head was up. Not a care in the world. I wasn't there to impress. I wasn't there to acquire. I wasn't there for anything other than myself. And I walk into the farmer's market, and what I notice is immediately everyone's faces turn to me. Like, instantly, I see everybody. Okay? And it's been a long time since that's happened. And so I sat with it, and I was like, okay, I'm going to let them look. I'm going to let them opt into my energy here. And I continued to walk around, and what I noticed is little kids on the playground stopped playing and looked at me and smiled and giggled. One even said hello. Like, she stopped, like, it was quite instantaneous and obvious where she was playing, and then it was drop everything she's doing, turn to look at me and say hi and wave. And so as I'm witnessing, like, the way that I'm walking around the farmer's market, people are literally enchanted by my presence. Everything they're doing stops. Conversations stop. And they, like, have to look at me. But the thing is that it's not that they have to. It's not that they're not sovereign. It is that they are willing to participate in the energy that is being brought to them. Okay? Children do this all the time. This is why children are deeply enchanted by the world around them. This is why they opt in to the energies that they're called to every damn day. As adults, we don't always opt into it. But at the farmer's market, I was noticing all of these people opting into it. And so from little kids, from little boys who may have not opted into it because they were shy and they would go hide behind their moms, but then they would peek in, right? There was different ways of participating with the energy I was holding. Some men dropped the food out of their mouth. Other men found themselves like following me a little bit, which was fine, right? They're opting into my energy. They don't know exactly how to hold it for themselves, other than the fact that there's something that I'm holding energetically that they actually would like, right? That's something that they're willing to participate in. So there's two sides of this, right? There's the one side of like not seeing that as people feeling like they don't have a choice, right? Because I could feel really shitty about my life if I feel like everybody when I'm around doesn't have a choice in the matter. But also not using that energy for my own personal gain. Okay? So this is where seduction gets its title of manipulation. This is where captivation makes people feel captive. This is where enchantment feels like spell work, right? When all of a sudden you are using that energy to get a particular thing, to acquire a particular thing. That's where you're no longer holding your frequency, you're manipulating your frequency, right? Now, it's not to say that you don't actually have natural enchantment and captivation. You do. But there's a way that you hold it for yourself that has people feel sovereign in their choice to opt in. Okay, so continuing on with the farmer's market exploration. I was already aware of this. I was like, okay, there's a way that I'm holding myself that is having people want to opt into me. Cool, I'm aware. As the weeks unfolded, I started to notice that there was a couple of guys, a couple of men that I know, and I've talked to them a couple times, but when I'm around, they get extremely nervous and awkward. And there was a moment when I caught myself, I was like, oh, this is where responsibility comes in as someone who is captivating and enchanting. I could totally get them to do whatever the hell I wanted. Like, there was this realization that, like, they're willing to opt in. They're willing to do whatever it is I ask, and I have the energy that could have them do that. But the thing is with great power comes great responsibility. If you opt to use your energy in that way, it will come back at you. Always. When you use magic for the acquisition of anything in personal gain, it will hit you back threefold. And this is the space of where, like, when you see people teaching seduction and teach people teaching attraction, they don't look at the cost of it, the energetic cost. There is a way that you are naturally captivating and enchanting, but without being responsible for it, you will squeeze that energy, and you'll fuck shit up, right? Because here's the thing. And this one gentleman in particular, I became very aware of how willing he would do things for me. And I could have him basically renovate my whole house for free if I really wanted. And the cost of this is actually hurting him because I don't want him. I am not actually a yes to this man. And so the awareness of him and his willingness, his sovereign willingness to participate in my energy could just be what it is. But the moment that I see his willingness to participate as an avenue for my acquisition, all that can come from it is hurt. Right? And then that's when people feel manipulated. That's when they feel used. And then they definitely don't want to see how they sovereignly participated because they were used. They were manipulated. But it's hard to stay sovereign in the fact that you chose to be manipulated by staying in that situation. In that spot, right? It's really hard to be like, yeah, I chose this the whole time. And so you kind of have to step back a couple layers and just as someone who's enchanting and just be like, okay, I see your willingness. I see your participation in this energy. That's all it has to be. I will let you feel embarrassed. I will let you feel nervous. I will let you stumble over your words and not be able to hold a conversation with me. Absolutely. We can leave it there. But I don't need to take the way that you are participating and use it for my own personal gain. Okay? So today, I go to the farmer's market again, and I noticed something different. I noticed that when I walked in, I wasn't looking at people. I wasn't engaging in the surroundings with myself. I wasn't letting myself be captivated by what was around me. I went in with an agenda to get my manic. I went in to look around briefly, have a short conversation with a friend's parents, and continue forward. I wasn't letting myself be captivated by life, and thus I couldn't be captivating around me. Okay? So a part of this is you have to opt into your own energy too. If you're going to be enchanted by life and you want a deeply nourishing love and nourishing life and something that is eternal and lush, you have to choose it. You really have to opt into the energy of it. That's where sovereign participation is such a requirement for enchantment. You have to say, I am willing to be a yes to the energy I'm being presented. Because if you aren't, then you're not going to be present to what magic actually is there, right? You're not going to be present to the fact that your presence has little kids stop playing to look at you and wave. You won't feel magic because you haven't opted into it, right? So there's two sides of this that I have to teach on and explain in different ways, and I will as the weeks go by. But on the one hand, if you are an enchanting person, you will find a way to dismiss your own enchantment because you see people dismissing their sovereignty in your presence. And then at the same time, you will dismiss your own sovereignty to not participate in that magic that's present. I hope that makes sense. And there's different ways that this shows up, right? People always find me quite weird because I can go across the world and meet random people, and I can create really fun, interesting experiences for myself. I'm always told that my autobiography will be really interesting to read because of how I interact with the world, and part of that is I am willing most of the time to sovereignly participate in my own life and the energy that is there. And so if the energy that's there is captivation, is wonderment, is enchantment, and I opt into that, then that means that I'm willing to hold that. And as I hold that, other people will see it, and then they have the sovereign ability to say, I want to opt into that too, and then they let themselves be captivated. And then it's just a world of everybody being captivated and enchanted by life, instead of what the what the typical way of experiencing it is either we don't opt into enchantment at all, and we stay closed and we stay small and tight and feel like our lives are falling apart and there's no magic and there's no beauty, there's nothing to it, right? That's one way. Or we opt into it and we see people giving away their sovereignty, and so we go back to closing off. Or we opt into it and we see people giving away their sovereignty and we use it for our own personal gain. And then people feel used and abused and torn up, and then we end up feeling bad, and then we go back to feeling closed off. So the only way is that we both maintain our sovereignty. You trust that everyone's sovereign. You go in, you opt into the energy present, they opt into the energy present, and then that's it. You let it unfold from there. You don't use it. You don't abuse it. You don't contort it. You don't manipulate it. You just sit with the energy and let that unfold. Okay, one of the ways that I actually want to explain this, so the other day I went to the Service Canada, which is like, or ICBC, which in the US is like the DMV. I went in because I wanted a book that they had on driving. And I went in, and yeah, I'm not going to hide this. I was hiding there. Sorry about that. I went in to get the motorcycle learner's guidebook. Okay. So I went in, and the lineup was super long. And so I was like, I just need the book. I'm not here for an appointment. I just need to go in, pick the book off the stand, and that's it. So I went around, and I walked in through there's a second entrance, and I was like letting myself be a little bit dumbfounded, because that was the energy that I had. And I was like, okay, well, dumbfounded, where's the book? And so then I saw a lady look at me, and I asked her, I said, am I slow, or like, did there used to be a section of handbooks for the like driver's ed? And she started looking around, and again, present to the energy of being dumbfounded. And she's like, huh, I think you're right. And I was like, yeah, I'm just looking for the motorcycle learner's handbook. And she goes, oh, you're a fellow rider. And I said, well, hopefully. And she goes, just come with me to my appointment. We'll get you the book. I'm like 5 minutes out. And I was like, would you mind? And she's like, no, that's totally fine. We ended up having this beautiful conversation of women and riding, and even with COVID, and of like freedom and liberation. It was just this beautiful conversation that unfolded for us. I went, got my book, we exchanged numbers, and I left. The beauty of that moment was only possible because I opted into the energy that was present. I didn't want to wait in a line. I just needed a book. So I went in. Now, it wasn't about, I'm going to use this woman to get the book. It was, I'm going to speak to this woman because I don't know where this book is. And maybe I might have to go wait in the line. She opted into the energy even further, right? Provided an opportunity. I said yes. There was no part of me that was about manipulation, like manipulating her to get the thing I wanted, right? It was just letting the moment unfold because we've both opted into the energy present. We are not bound to it. This is the thing that's important. Whether you're captivated by someone, you're enchanted by someone, you are enchanting or captivating, no one is bound to the energy. You have to be sovereign and choose to opt into it. That is what captivation is that you are opting in. Because otherwise you could look around the world and be jaded and removed and disconnected and disengaged all you want, right? The basis of disenchantment is disconnection, is disengagement, is disappointment, is dissonance from reality, is to be so radically removed from what's actually possible for yourself, what's possible for others, what's possible for life in general. Right? So if everybody is opting into the presence of whatever energy is there, magic can happen without needing to manipulate or strategize or waste energy, any extra energy. You just opt into what's there, right? And so, even in bank, I always say the energy you have is always perfect for the truest thing at hand. Most people don't want to opt into the energy they have. Most people want to manipulate the energy they have to look or feel a particular way. But opting into what's present is what allows it to alchemize into something that is useful, right? So opting into being dumbfounded and not pretending like I know what's going on allowed me to alchemize that into being enchanted by this woman and her conversation about motorcycles, right? Same thing with her. She opted into the dumbfoundedness so we could alchemize it into a magical, beautiful conversation. This is what transformation actually is. It's the alchemy of what's already there, what's already present, right? And I think most of this is learning to be okay. Like, it's to be accepting and open with whatever energy is actually there and saying, well, how can I opt into this fully and let it move into whatever it needs to be, right? And doing that responsibly. I could go around the world seducing whoever the fuck I wanted, really. But I also understand that the cost of that is a lot heavier than one that I'm willing to pay. Right? Like the gentleman who stutters when he speaks to me. I could totally seduce him and have him do whatever I wanted, but the cost of that energetically is too high. So instead, I respect the level of his willing to opt in, which is just to stutter, right? Is to like not be able to hold himself around me. That he's still opting in, he just can't hold it. And I just leave it. I don't need him to be the one to do things for me, even though I have the power to do so, right? It's letting him have his sovereign choice to participate in whatever way he wants. Not feeling bad because that's the way that he is interacting with me, but also not forcing him to interact any differently. So anyways, I wanted to just come on and talk about this in a very general way, because this is something I'm working through, and the farmer's market always tends to bring up this conversation for myself. So yeah, I'd love to hear what your experience of captivation is in the comments. Like, what's it like when you're captivating? When you're captivated? How do you relate to it? I would love to know that. So let me know in the comments. Otherwise, you can let me know what you're leaving this video with. Yeah. Okay. Talk to you later. Bye.